Are you behind on leveraging AI for innovation? We're going down that rabbit hole for the next few minutes. Hey, everybody, Tim Sweeney coming to you from a very muggy Austin, Texas day. First, let's briefly touch on how AI is currently being leveraged for innovation and talk about more systematic efforts some are taking, and perhaps you should too. Most practitioners I speak with are using AI in an ad hoc manner at the discretion of individuals. Nothing is being pursued systematically. On the front end of innovation, researchers are using bots to recruit and AI to moderate qualitative studies. More and more analysis of primary and secondary research is being performed by AI. We know reports can be generated by AI. Speed and cost is already being prioritized over quality and rigor with good enough results for most applications. Designers are using AI to generate ideas and sketches based on challenge-based prompts. They're also vibe coding using apps like Cursor, where they provide sketches and renderings in addition to prompts. They can very quickly produce minimally viable prototypes suitable for evaluation. However, these prototypes aren't ready to go to market because other domains like engineering and copywriting haven't provided their guidance through prompts. At the moment, AI can't really identify white space opportunities because there is no signal for the absence of data. But there are use cases where customer data is being analyzed by AI to identify patterns and problems to explore that are more likely to drive incremental improvements. One concern I have heard expressed is that AI struggles to describe exactly how it produces the patterns and outputs that it does. It often cites factors, but this may not be enough transparency when business integrity and continuity are on the line. For example, when you're focusing on sensitive topics that have the potential to dramatically swing consumer sentiment. I'm sure I'm missing 1,000 use cases, but these represent the bulk of what you see in innovation today. Now, if you really want to build the muscle memory and foundation to systematically integrate AI, there are some efforts you should consider taking on. I'll go through 5 here, but we can talk about many others. The first is to build a simple AI management tool for innovation. A management tool will help you maintain the integrity of your existing innovation processes and approaches. It will also help you manage AI experimentation and determine when to scale the use of a particular tool. And it should allow you to see the proximity of task inputs, outputs, and identify opportunities to string multiple together using workflow automation. You're going to want to anchor your AI to your innovation process or approach, not the other way around. So start by building a workflow map that defines your key innovation tasks categorically in their order. Categories could be insight generation, concept development, evaluation, ideation, those types of things. From here, you can map potential AI tools to leverage in each category. You can further classify this mapping, for example, which are currently being experimented with, and any anecdotal feedback from experiments, which help build the case for scale out. You may also want to classify workflows based on whether they use proprietary data or widely accessible market inputs. A little bit more on this later. Speaking of experimentation, number 2 is experiment. Experimenting with AI tools builds prompting skills at an individual level. It gets you some input to determine what tools to scale and when. You're going to run into use case challenges and workarounds which are best figured out at smaller scale. Experimentation should be done with a smaller subset of a given team that you have some ability to compare workflow efficiency and output quality. 3, develop an AI policy for innovation. Policies ensure adoption hiccups aren't repeated in scale out. You're going to discover best practices through experimentation, of course. For example, you may find people stepping on each other's toes and overwriting prompts. This is going to become more and more common as multiple prompters, people with different expertises, engage collaboratively on a single AI task. It exacerbates the need for teams to be in absolute alignment when engaging on the same task. Policy should also define usage limits for certain tools. You may not want to take on efforts where the foundational data has historically underrepresented certain populations. For example, leveraging AI on a topic like equity will reflect the underrepresentation of biases in existing data sets. 4, organize your proprietary data for AI use. Your organization likely has a glut of customer data that could be analyzed by AI to identify all sorts of patterns, some of which might be relevant to innovation. If this data can be tapped, it can lead to game-changing institutional knowledge or enterprise learning plays. Because this data comes from research, marketing, sales, product interactions on platform, etc., The data sets are likely to vary in formatting, language, among other attributes. To maximize AI's ability to identify patterns, these data sets need to be normalized and organized correctly. Don't fret, there are firms out there that do just that. 5, identify the low-hanging fruit to build momentum. You need a starting point to get going, and I'm going to give you 2. The first should be experimenting with at least one tool systematically with a portion of your team. Perhaps you can identify the simplest but most resource-consuming task flow and see what AI can do for you. The second should center on applying AI to a single data set to identify patterns. Perhaps you have access to data that has been collected in a consistent manner over time and includes signals relevant to your innovation process. The key here is to avoid a need for data cleanup while trying to mine data with promising characteristics. If you already have momentum, start to identify task series that can be automated. Now, you may not have the authority or bandwidth to take on all of these initiatives, but you should now be capable of driving a strategic conversation internally around AI and innovation. And that leads me to bonus number 6. Incorporate AI integration dialogue in your staff meetings. A regular cadence will drive progress towards integration. If you have a management tool or policy, you can leverage those as backdrops for input and progress. Fortunately or unfortunately, these are the tasks modern innovation leaders need to take on in order to be successful. Let me know what other questions this sparks for you.